So, yeah, thank you all for coming back from your lunch. Hope you enjoyed it. So my name is Irene Fubara Manuel. I'm a lecturer here at the University of Sussex, and I've been part of the project team at Full Stack Feminism, working with Sharon and Cecile. Switch their names each time to keep them on their toes sometimes. Um, so I've been working with Sharon and Cecile prior to Full Stack Feminism on FACT and IFT, and now we're coming in this final conference. So what do I do? My work mostly I mostly make 3D animations. Someone is coming in. Are you with us? No. I mostly make 3D animation, multimedia installations, and 3D video games about migration and borders. A lot of my work is also ethnographic, and as people have already said, a little bit of ethnography of technology. But for today, I'm coming in as the chair for the Data and Archives panel. And before we get into the panel and introduce the speakers, I've been told I have to write like 5 minutes, so you are stuck listening to me read for the next 5 minutes. So data is the raw information from our bodies, our lands, our cultures, our lived experiences. As a Black queer scholar, Shaka McGlutton writes about Black data. Sorry, let me move this way. About Black data, transforming experiences into information or data is nothing new. Rather, it is caught up with the history of enslavement and racist regimes. As he says, technologies of race and racism reduce Black queer lives to mere numbers. We appear as commodities, revenue streams, statistical deviations, or vectors of risk. Archives, on the other hand, are repositories where we store these histories. They are chambers that hold our past. If we are to follow the words of Saidiya Hartman from her essay, Venus in Two Acts, archives are collections of a past that trace a trajectory for us living in the meantime to our future. Hartman reminds us living in the meantime, I quote, in the space of the interval between the too late and the too early, the no longer and the not yet. She reminds us to recruit the past for the sake of the living, establishing who we are in relation to who we have been, that we may also interrogate the production of our knowledge about the past. Hartman reminds us that archives are often a sentence, a death sentence, a tome, a display of a violated body, an inventory of property, a vast collection that reduced Black life to an asterisk in a grand narrative of history. With this introduction to data and archives, I've sort of tried to delineate a dichotomy, a play between these two words. Archives hold data, and there is power in that holding. That power is usually located outside of the communities from which data is extracted. Think of the archives that hold histories about Black trans life as documented by Riley Snorton and the violence of Black trans erasure. Think of archives that hold stories of enslaved people and what Saidiya Hartman calls the violence of narration that keeps them captive long after their deaths and their corporal freedom from this world. Archives fix life after death. As a curator and archivist, Renee Musai, who is friends with both me and Abira over there, has written Archives Inscribe Identities. Since the initiation of this project, Full Stack Feminism has asked, what happens if we shift the power dynamics of data and archives to hold stories close to communities who they are about? What does non-extractive, embodied, situated data resemble? Invoking the poet, the Caribbean poet Edward Glisson, what would data that respects the right to opacity for everyone look like? Even one of the artists that we've spoken with as part of this project, Danielle Braithwaite Shirley, says, how might Black trans communities, how might we hold the ways that Black trans communities tell stories in this time, in this location? And as Sharon has said, we don't really resolve these questions in our project. They are vast, big questions that are placed within our larger techno landscape. And I'm glad that our collaborators, our experimentations, and you who are here are helping us with those questions as we go on and also asking your own. In Danielle's case, Danielle Braithwaite Shirley, the approach that they have taken is using interactive video games in three-dimensional worlds where the textured hair of their friends, the characters, the way they move, the game pretty much comes from the bodies of these communities. And again, putting it in games called Black Trans Archive, we can see how it is that digital worlds, digital archives may hold information close to the bodies from where they come from. Okay, some of the challenges. So as part of our project, we've also held community archive forums. A few of you might have been here early. Was it in January? Yes, it was in January. Wow. Yikes. Sorry, I feel like it's just reminding people of the start of the year. But yeah, so yeah, a few of you were here in January, and I feel Izzy and our community archivist, Orla, sorry, I'm losing, yeah. You know what, I could just take it out. Izzy and our community archivists have also run community archive forums in Maynooth in Ireland as well, in Dublin rather. And for us, part of the conversations that we had with our community archivists has sort of echoed a lot of the conversations that we have heard from the first two panels about the erasure or the reduction of identity to data, the tokenization of communities through time-restricted projects, lack of funding, for instance, the restriction of Black projects to only October, for instance, or trans project to November, because, those identities only exist within those particular periods of time within the funders, perspective. We've have discussions with people about institutional exploitation and also the problem of autonomy, which we again have tried to address through our experimentations with feminist autonomous servers. So while one project cannot resolve all these issues, one contribution that I would say full stack feminism has made is the way that we see data and archives as not this split between this dichotomy of where the data lives and where the archive is, but we have really tried to think of how we hold space. And I would like to sort of direct you to the images on the on the screen. So the very left image is a diagram that I drew as part of the feminist servers as a way of imagining what the server could look like. And then given that Cecile and I were both we are both focused on design and graphics, we started thinking of, okay, what form could that take? Could it take the form of a relative? So this is from Sharon's other project, Reanimating Data. And this is a vase that a person put as part of their objects into the archive. And this is a relative's vase. So we were thinking to ourselves, what if the archive could be held literally in your home? So think of totems. For me, my last name is Fubara. It means ancestor. So in my culture, we have something called an ancestral screen doing Fubara. So for me, I could imagine putting my archive in a doing Fubara where I could easily go and interact with my ancestors in that way. So again, data is not simply raw information. Archives are not simply where things are held, but they can hold us as well. And on that note of holding and thinking of archives and data, I want to pass on to the two speakers for today, Sarah Phillips and Tiara Roxanne. So the first presenter, Sarah Phillips, is a trans activist working globally. Sarah is the co-chair of the International Trans Fund based in Toronto. Oh, nice. The chair of, sorry, you touched the Canadian, there's a little bit of Canada still in me. It's not there like, sorry. Sarah is the co-chair of the International Trans Fund based in Toronto, the co-chair of Transgender Europe in Berlin, and a board member of the National Women's Council of Ireland. She is founder, researcher, and activist of the Irish Trans Archive. Sarah will be presenting on issues addressing the challenges of creating, researching, and sustaining a community-based archive, which again goes back to the holding that I've been speaking of. And our second presenter, Tiara Roxanne, is a Puerto Rican descendant settler in, Tiara Roxanne is a Puerto Rican descendant settler, Italian Mestiza scholar and artist based in Berlin. They're currently a postdoctoral fellow at Data and Society in the Trustworthy Infrastructures Research Team, developing protocols of trust and safety online with indigenous communities based in Central and South America. Roxanne's work is dedicated to rethinking of ethics of AI in an anti-colonial and cyber-feminist lens. I mean, Sorry, you're going to get like, I'm gonna be gesturing by taking by taking a multidisciplinary approach. Tiara Roxanne's research on data colonialism interrogates how big data and data mining systems govern a colonial imposition through design and visual representation. These data mining practices arise from machine learning and artificial intelligence black boxes that lack intersectional intelligence and indigenous knowledge. Tara will be giving us a provocation that will focus on indigenous data sovereignty and the new refusal.